here in India, but who is it for? Is it really the magic pill, as pharmaceutical companies have called it so? Celebrities are endorsing it. Is it meant for you? And if yes, then how? For how long? All these very exciting answers on the science behind weight loss drugs work on the program today.
After that, we're actually going to be speaking to one of the country's biggest artists, the man of the sand, Sudarsan Pattnaik. He's going to be telling us all about his artistry. How did he make India realize just how special sand art can be? He's just won a very, very prestigious international award. He talks about that and more. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. I'm Toya Singh. Let's go right into it.
Mounjaro launches fuels actually obesity debate in India. The GLP drug craze reaches Indian pharmacies as well. Doctors now report surge in weight loss inquiries. Big Pharma turns to India's obesity crisis. From Elon Musk to Oprah to Kardashians, all of them are talking about these drugs. But is it really for you?
And after that, as we promised, we take you into the artistic world of a man who is sculpting social stories and has been over the last few decades. He's India's sand virtuoso and he's now bagged a top honor. Sudarsan Pattnaik will be sharing his triumph with us. A Ganesha for world peace. He's been sculpting Sachin, shaping Shiva. And after that, all aboard for a cosmic leap as Blue Origin's historic all-female space mission. We told you about them yesterday. 6 women, some of who you know, Katy Perry, Gayle King, all making history with that space flight.
Alright, our top story today. The buzz around weight loss drugs has officially landed now in India, and it's louder than ever. After months of speculation, Eli Lilly's Mounjaro is now available across Indian clinics and pharmacies, and the phones haven't stopped ringing. We've seen the dramatic body changes perhaps of some of the biggest celebrities in the world, right? That's Oprah, her slimmer frame, Mindy Kaling, Elon Musk openly crediting weight loss injections for his weight loss, Kardashians quietly backing away also from the weight loss rumors. But everyone from James Corden to Amy Schumer have either admitted or being accused of turning to the new wave of injectable weight loss drugs.
Right, and those not admitting has only meant more speculation. That wave has hit Indian shores now. Mounjaro, chemically known as tirzepatide, was originally approved for type 2 diabetes. But the real storm hit when people realized that it does far more than regulate insulin. So it's actually a step beyond Ozempic. Ozempic is just a GLP-1 agonist. Mounjaro hits both the GLP-1 and GIP receptors. That dual mechanism has shown stronger weight loss outcomes, better appetite regulation, and improved insulin sensitivity in studies that compared the two. India's health clinics are seeing now a flood of interest. Doctors have received over 200 queries in just 1 week.
Okay, so the Manipal Hospital in Bengaluru has seen over 20% rise in weight loss consultations, with over 24% of Indian women and 22.9% of men between 15 to 49 classified as overweight or obese. The demand is not just surprising, it's actually urgent as well. But what's fueling this hype even more is the pricing. The same Mounjaro dose that costs over $1 lakh in the US is priced between 14,000 to 17,500 depending on how many mg actually you take per month in India. That's nearly a 75% drop. That's making it really exciting for the Indian market.
Right, and until now, most Indian patients were relying on friends abroad. You sometimes had shady black market suppliers. But now they have a legal, local and comparatively affordable option. But the main thing to understand is that it's not a miracle shot. Doctors are warning against unsupervised use. It's still something that needs to be prescribed to you. It needs medical oversight is what that means. And it's not a replacement in any way for more sustainable habits.
So as India sort of dives in headfirst into its injectable weight loss boom, the question really is, are we finally seeing a real shift in obesity care, or just another quick fix perhaps in a society obsessed with shrinking waistlines and obsessed with looking like celebrities as well? Joining us now to sort of take us through that, I couldn't think of a better name, Dr. Shashank Joshi, India's leading endocrinologist, also Padma Shri here in the country, joins us live now this morning. Dr. Joshi, so much to decode when it comes to the weight loss drug craze. But the first fundamental question to really ask you here is this: are these weight loss drugs, brand aside and just the chemical composition per se aside, are they really the magic pill that everybody has been talking about, that celebrities endorse? Or this is just another pharma gimmick that we must be very mindful of, that might have long-term implications that we don't know of?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. First thing is that we don't like to use the word magic pill at all.
Yes.
Because in India we have a Magic Remedies Act, and therefore one has to be very mindful and careful when we use the word magic. It is a very compelling evidence-based medication, and one class which is called as peptide is a dual agent, as you rightly said. The first in class was the GLP-1, which is the glucagon-like receptor. So we know that insulin regulates glucose. Opposite of insulin is glucagon. So insulin is made by beta cells of the pancreas. Then there is alpha cells which make glucagon. And this is like a cut peptide or a cut protein, which our intestine makes. And it basically has the second compound called GIP. This is all made by our intestinal cells, which basically regulate the glucose and regulate weight metabolism. It is how this medication works. And fundamentally, we have a triple agent of. So this agent which has been launched is a very compelling agent with lot of evidence, because we are in a science of evidence medicine. Yes. And formerly we only had some lifestyle options or surgical options, endoscopic options. And now we have a very compelling option. Let us be also mindful that an oral tablet of GLP-1 has been available in India for last year. It is also doing extremely well. It is another name made by their competitor called Novo Nordisk, called Ribensys, and that has been available. It was a daily tablet. You had to wait for 1 hour after eating the tablet. It caused nausea and vomiting. And all these medications have to be medically supervised. So an endocrinologist or a physician has to supervise and give this drug. Because if a drug works, it will have effects and side effects. We need some monitoring for the same, and just taking it off label or based on peer pressure is not correct. Though the data is very compelling, I think it is not an off-label drug. It is a medically supervised compound, and definitely we welcome its use. And we have been getting continuous phone calls on it for the last 2 to 3 years. We are happy that it is available in India, and we are also happy that it is available at affordable cost.
So, Doctor, what we've seen in the media, at least when we take a look at celebrities in the West, is that transition has taken a few months. It's something that takes, it seems like 6 to 9 months. We obviously don't know if they're doing it under doctor supervision or not, but it takes time is my essential point. Can you tell our audiences a little bit more about the mechanism, the science that's at work inside the body? Explain it to us like we are children and do not have a basic understanding of the way this works, because the question I want to get at is, diabetes now ho tab use kar sakte hain? What effect does your body have? If you're pre-diabetic, for example, can you still use it? Just break down the science there, but like we don't understand, the more basic concepts.
As I rightly said, these are cut peptides from the intestine, made by the L and K cells of the intestine. So the GLP-1 receptor is there in our brain, it is there in our liver, it is there in our intestine, and it is basically regulating body's metabolism.
Yeah.
So we start with the lowest dose. All these drugs for the first month have a low dose, second month the second lowest dose, third month the third lowest dose. So it has to be gradually up titrated. That is why medical supervision. Because if we suddenly start for a quick fix, you will get nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and adverse events. So that is why start low, go slow and do it under medical supervision. Also, we need to filter out some side effects. For example, somebody has history of recurrent pancreatitis, disease of the pancreas. somebody has underlying gallstones or gallbladder sludge, you can be vulnerable to get pancreatitis. Pancreatitis can be very, very fatal. So it's important to recognize this has to be done medically supervised. As you said, simplify the mechanism. So this was an accidental discovery. These GLP-1 agents were discovered from a South American lizard. Okay, and this was called as the Heloderma suscepticum. And when they saw the salivary secretions of this lizard, and when they were injected in animals and then human beings, they saw that sugar came down, but they also saw that the appetite, the craving for food got switched off. And we all know that even if you start smelling and thinking of food, we tend to grab and eat more. And that is the whole fundamental biological basis of eating weight. Because we tend to eat too much, we crave for food, and then we keep eating and we don't exercise. So these agents basically, fundamentally, the GLP-1 and the GIP-1, they fundamentally switch off the hypothalamic brain to reduce the craving to food. There is novel work now going on of these agents, also in newer indications like Alzheimer's disease, like addictions for people. So people are addicted. So they are trying to use these agents there also. Fundamentally, they switch off the craving. They also cause regulation of blood glucose. So sugar normalizes. So as you rightly said, that if you are in a pre-diabetic state, you may become normal. If you are a diabetic, you may need less medicines or may not even need them. So they may have a remission potential. And the data is very compelling. If you have fat inside the liver, which is called as MFND, then that fat will be chopped off or shaved off. So that is how they work. So these medications definitely work. The dual agent is almost much more powerful than a single agent. But remember, Indians are thin fat. So we don't have good data to show that the dual agent, is it too powerful? We need to see that in the next 1 or 2 years. Because the single agent has done very well in the Indian population. And we have even seen very good weight loss with the single agent. Of course, it was orally available, but a lot of people, as you rightly said, off-label imported the medication injectably also. Injection is once a week injection. So it is easier to handle and tolerate. But remember, whenever we use the word injection to lay people, they get scared because they have to inject it like insulin. But important to recognize that oral tablets sometimes is not as well tolerated as the injection.
True.
But it has been available in India. It has shown good weight loss, much more than what has been documented in literature. And therefore, it's important to recognize that the single agent causes weight loss in the Indian population, anecdotally anywhere from 8 to around 10 to 12%. The dual agent, in the published data from phase 3, where Indian population was used, probably causes weight loss to around 12%. But when it is available for a larger commercial use, we will understand more science around it and we'll see that whether it goes up to 15%. We all know surgery causes weight loss up to 25%. So can the data which is shown for this dual agent, can it almost cause 20% weight loss equivalent to bariatric surgery? That is the thing. Second thing, we have to use it lifelong. Remember this. And it has to be medically supervised. As I said, start low, go slow, do it under medical supervision, and only do it if it is indicated. Just don't go because I want to fit in my clothes, I want to be fit for my wedding. I think the cosmetic use...
Dr. Joshi, just hold that thought on who should and who should not do it. But before we move on to that, I just want to have another follow-up question on the science because it is so fascinating. So the weight loss drugs are basically doing 3 things. It is slowing down your metabolism, which is great, which is meaning that it keeps you full for longer. It's burning your fat, and it's also giving you the hormone to feel satiated early. So you're eating, you're controlling your portions. Those are the 3 things that we know it's doing. Now I'm reading a lot of data. It talks about how these drugs are being used to fight alcoholism, to fight drug addiction, to fight and tell people who wanted to eat greasy food, they're eating regular healthy food. So a lot of it sounds like, oh my God, this is revolutionary. This is what everybody then should be on. Which is why I want to understand a doctor's perspective here. Is this all true? And if yes, who should not take these drugs?
So I think your second part is under investigation, which is the addiction part of it. Yes, definitely the craving for food will come down. The craving for tobacco or craving for alcohol may come down. This is strictly under investigation. This is strictly off-label. This is yet for pending approvals, various regulatory authorities, but that's a potential. But for example, if you are using alcohol as a part of your life, okay, then you are vulnerable to get pancreatitis. So one needs caution to use this drug. That's important to recognize. If you are vulnerable to get acute pancreatitis episodes, then you should be cautious of using these drugs. As I rightly said, that most obese people often tend to have biliary sludge or gallstones. Then one has to be cautious using these drugs. So these drugs have their own do's and don'ts, and which is why a medical examination, medical evaluation is important. Also, you made a very important point, Sonalji, while discussing that it reduces waist and weight both. Maybe it was a slip of the tongue, but clearly it reduces fat as well as weight. And we are not BMI centric, because Indians, we tend to have more body fat in our body composition compared to the Caucasians. We are a thin fat Indians, as I said.
Yeah.
So we may be lean. I may be lean, but if I do a body fat analysis,
Visceral fat, yeah.
my body fat will have more fat. So these drugs definitely are very compelling, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. They are investigating these uses. So there are a lot of novel uses for this. In fact, this drug has reduced sleep apnea, for example. And in the US FDA, it is approved for sleep apnea. In India, it is not approved. So you cannot be approving it. It is marketed by Eli Lilly, which is a very, very tightly regulated evidence-based company. So they are very strict about its usage. But in the US, they have filed for approval for obstructive sleep apnea. A lot of people snore, they need a CPAP, and the need for that may go down. For example, it also got data, Tirzepatide has data on the MFLD, or what is popularly known as fatty liver disease. And there also they have got some very compelling data. So just beyond, it is not just a drug for diabetes, it is not just a drug for obesity. Beyond obesity and diabetes, there are pending approvals of these drugs in the US and Europe for fatty liver disease, for fundamentally, other indications, but these are being investigated. But the mechanism, as you rightly said, looks like a sci-fi story. And it is real. We are seeing it happen in people, and their food preferences, what you rightly said, they actually change. Somebody is to crave for a samosa or crave for a fast food. They don't crave for that food anymore. And which is why food industry, which is the fast food industry or the junk food industry, will be threatened if this drug is used appropriately and correctly under medical supervision. Also, it's important to recognize that obesity is a medical disease. And we recognize obesity as a medical disease. And it's just not a cosmetic disease. Because obesity is the mother of all diseases.
Right.
Whether it's diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure, all of them stem their root from obesity. So losing weight is very crucial and critical. That's why even our Honorable Prime Minister in Khel Games said that it's important to at least reduce our fat by 10%, reduce our oil intake by 10%.
Yeah.
So these drugs definitely reduce the crave, or the feel-good factor from food comes down for sure.
Doctor, can we ask you, you talked a little bit earlier about skinny fat, the fact that Indians have skinny fat, and it's also discussed as a South Asian phenotype, this idea that, as we've just told our audiences, thin, but the stomach has fat on it. And I just want to ask you, the other issue that a lot of Indian women or South Asian women have, 1 in every 3, is PCOS, which also affects insulin resistance. So in general, overall, we're a very sensitive population. Doctor, I want to ask you, longitudinal studies, as far as I'm aware, can't exist over the course of 10 years, 15 years, right? About the effect of this over 10 years or 15 years. So let me ask you a more personal question. Would you recommend this to someone who is in your own family right now? Would you say, wait, the longitudinal studies need to come out? Or would you say case by case basis? There's no way to say one pill fits all.
So I would, by your second answer, it is individualized treatment. It is case by case. Somebody who is infertile with PCOD and has a weight of say 75 kilograms and is struggling to go from one infertility clinic to another infertility and has taken couple of cycles of IVF. If I use this agent appropriately and get some compelling fat loss into the endocrine parameters, we might be able to get spontaneous ovulation. This is anecdotal. We have published some of this data. Okay, so it's important to recognize that the supervision of this drug is clearly medically individualized.
Yes.
But fundamentally, currently what is recommended is obesity and diabetes. But case by case basis, if a family member, for me, every patient is my family member. Okay, it's important that that person has a compelling indication to use this drug. It should be used. It should not be deprived. And after it is available, it should not be deprived particularly. Okay, for example, a lot of people are on antipsychotic medications. They gain weight. Now, in this situation, it has to be very carefully handled because the drugs also have adverse events. So, important to remember that we are all sworn by Hippocrates oath, which is not. First of all, do no harm. So, we need to be pharmacovigilant. And as you rightly said, we don't have longitudinal. But I think case to case basis, when there is a need, for example, an infertility like situation, using this drug for 3 to 6 months may be reasonable. So it's important to recognize that here, endocrinologists across India are happy that this drug is available for medical use under appropriate supervision. And I think it is a very important drug where we are understanding how Indians are responding.
Yeah.
If you ask me that question today, I may not be very certain how it will respond. If you ask me this question after 1 or 2 years, I'll be more accurate about this.
Yeah, Dr. Joshi, we have to let you go, running out of time, but I cannot without asking this question. You know, there are people who have a false sense of obesity in our country. People watching this right now who think they are fat only in their head and are obsessive about how they look. They might be the first ones to jump on these drugs. Is there a sense of caution that you want to send out?
You know, you are very right that obesity is in the mind. And image is more important. And there are people who are totally weight centric. There are people who come to my clinic who don't want to get on a weight scale because there's a whole fear and stigma associated with it. So first thing is people living with obesity, we should destigmatize them. But remember that if you are just a little more not in your right fit, and doesn't mean that you have to rush to a doctor to lose weight. Okay, just because a size or two of your clothing has moved up and for the next wedding or for your next event you are not there, it doesn't mean that you have to jump into a drug. But losing fat is useful for good health and it has to be appropriated with lifestyle.
Correct.
It is not a quick fix to bypass lifestyle. You still need to, because remember, when you lose weight, you lose muscle mass. You still need to have adequate protein on board. You still need to ensure that your bones are strong. Okay, and we don't break your bones because remember, when there is a lot of acute weight loss, you tend to get osteoporosis and fractures. So these drugs also come with their own things. Suddenly you will see that a person has become frail because you have lost a lot of fat and muscle both. So everybody will suddenly think that you have aged a little more. So remember that the reason there is a need for a medical supervision, and these are not off-label or over-the-counter drugs, is because they are strong,
very, very
powerful agents. They need medical supervision, and therefore go to your nearby endocrinologist and then take it under medical supervision only if indicated, and don't be running for it. But if you have diabetes, which is brittle, you are taking a lot of tablets with insulin, you have another option where the weight gain can be mitigated, the low sugar attack can be mitigated, and your overall health can be improved.
Doctor, it's been lovely having you bring this very balanced approach for all of us and really demystify a lot of how the science behind this works. So thank you for joining us. Let's go over very quickly because we're not done yet. Let's take a look at the numbers, the raw data here. Our colleague Himani joins us to shine a light on the data. Himani, we were just telling our audiences, Mounjaro has just been out for a little while, but Ozempic is a little bit more comparable. So how do the numbers look for both in the markets over the last few years? How are Indians consuming it?
So definitely doctors tell us that they are flooded with requests from patients eager to start Mounjaro or learn more about this drug. And we must remember that this drug was launched on 20th of March, so it's not even a month. And the data by PharmaTrack, which our audiences can see on the screen as well, has registered sales value of rupees 1.4 crore and the units sold stood at 5,400 injections. We do not have the Ozempic injection available in India directly. Mounjaro is the first product category in injection that India has. You know, while several molecules have been available in the anti-obesity category worldwide, it was Novo Nordisk's semaglutide, which we call the API of globally popular Ozempic, that propelled the growth of this category. And moving forward, it's tirzepatide, which is the API for Mounjaro, that is expected to push the growth forward.
Right. Very quickly, Imani, what is the feedback that you're getting from patients so far? Less than a month, so many units sold already?
Right. So, Sonal, whatever the feedback is, I'll call it early feedback for that, because, you know, the first thing that patients notice once they start the treatment is the decreased appetite. The other symptoms that patients immediately start telling doctors are the symptoms which are related to your stomach. It's constipation, bloating, nausea. These are the first symptoms that generally, you know, people come back to doctors and doctors end up adjusting their dose. But usually these symptoms are self-limiting and they go away once the body starts adjusting with the dosage. And also, you know, patients are also reporting a sense of better control over the cravings. Like Dr. Joshi also highlighted this point. People report that now they have a better control over the sugary cravings, or they are better controlled when they don't feel like having a carb heavy meals, which is a good thing. And you know, this is yet not documented, but people also say, doctors tell us that psychologically people are feeling better, they are feeling happy, they feel motivated, because, you know, some of the category of patients are those who were trying to control weight for over the years now, but they were not able to do that. While, you know, it's too early to say that they have started losing weight already, but still they feel psychologically better.
Himani, thank you. Thank you for highlighting the data for us and for telling us the early market reaction that's coming in. Okay, let's take you, our audiences, now to something more in this same conversation. Policy strategist for public health, Dr. Chandrakant Laheria, in conversation with Sonal about this very issue. Take a look.
पतला होना किसी को क्यों नहीं अच्छा लगेगा? और अब तो पतले होने के लिए इंजेक्शंस आ गए हैं, वेट लॉस ड्रग्स हैं, तो क्या सबको ये ले लेना चाहिए? यही सवाल के साथ मैं अब डॉक्टर चंद्रकांत लहेरिया के साथ बैठी हुई हूँ. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर गिविंग अस योर टाइम. जो लोग नहीं जानते हैं मैं उनको बता दूं, डॉक्टर चंद्रकांत लहेरिया इज अ लाइफस्टाइल डिजीज एक्सपर्ट. ही इज अ रिनाउंड नेम, वन वी रियली लुक फॉरवर्ड टू व्हेन वी हैव समथिंग कंसर्निंग वेट लॉस ड्रग्स. एंड ही ऑल्सो एडवाइसेज द गवर्नमेंट. सरकार को भी सजेशंस देते हैं कि इसके बारे में क्या करना चाहिए. सो डॉक्टर लहेरिया, अभी तो जैसे यूएस में, इंडिया में, दोनों जगह इट्स अ वेरी हॉट टॉपिक that should you take weight loss drugs, should you not take weight loss drugs. तो पहले हम क्या सबसे पहले अपने दर्शकों को बता सकते हैं कि भाई किसके लिए है ये ड्रग्स, क्योंकि अब इंडिया में अवेलेबल है करीब 4,500 रुपए वीकली के हिसाब से आप ये वेट लॉस ड्रग्स प्रिस्क्रिप्शन पर ले सकते हैं, लीगली ले सकते हैं. तो क्या सबको ये लेना चाहिए, कुछ लोगों को लेना चाहिए, सोच समझ के लेना चाहिए? आपका क्या व्यू है?
सबसे अच्छी बात यह है कि अब लोग रिकॉग्नाइज करने लगे हैं कि वेट लॉस करना एक अच्छी बात है. उससे पहले तक तो लोग सोचते ही नहीं थे, उनको ज्यादा वेट होता था वो कहते थे हम खाते पीते घर के हैं, हमारा वेट तो अच्छा है. लेकिन अब साइंटिफिक एविडेंस काफी सारा इकट्ठा हुआ है इस बात पर. वो कहता है कि अगर आप वेट रिड्यूस करते हैं आपकी लाइफ काफी हद तक इंप्रूव करेगी. आपका लिवर हेल्थ, किडनी हेल्थ, बाकी सारे हेल्थ कंडीशन इंप्रूव करेंगे. अगर आपको डायबिटीज या प्री डायबिटीज है तो उसमें फायदा होगा. तो लोग वेट लॉस करना चाहते हैं. उसमें सबसे ज्यादा अभी फिलहाल जो खबरें आ रही हैं, बात हो रही है, वो वेट लॉस मेडिकेशंस की हो रही हैं. इंडिया में भी लाइसेंस हो गई है. लेकिन अगर मेरे पास जो लोग आते हैं मैं उनसे कहता हूं कि एक बहुत अच्छी बात है, ये वेट लॉस मेडिसिन अवेलेबल है, जब जरूरत पड़ेगी इनका हम इस्तेमाल करेंगे. लेकिन उससे पहले हमें याद रखना होगा कि 3 चीजें हैं. वेट 3 तरीके से कम किया जा सकता है. एक तो आपको लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशन कीजिए. लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशन में 2 बातें आती हैं. आप डाइटरी मॉडिफिकेशन करने होंगे. अगर डाइट जो कैलोरी को रिड्यूस करेंगे आपका वेट कम होने लगेगा, क्योंकि इसकी जड़ में तो कैलोरी, एक्स्ट्रा कैलोरी ही है. दूसरा बात है फिजिकल एक्टिविटी, कि आप फिजिकल एक्टिविटी कीजिए. WHO कहता है, सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कहते हैं बल्कि आपको याद होगा कि अभी से कुछ समय पहले एक रिपोर्ट आई थी कि 50% इंडियन जो रिकमेंडेड फिजिकल एक्टिविटी होती है उससे कम फिजिकल एक्टिविटी करते हैं। तो आप फिजिकल एक्टिविटी इंक्रीज कीजिए। तीसरी चीज है कि अब जो एंटी ओबेसिटी मेडिकेशन आ गई हैं, एक इंपॉर्टेंट टूल है, लेकिन मेरी सलाह रहेगी कि आप अगर इन मेडिसिन के बारे में सोच रहे हैं तो अपने प्रिस्क्राइबर के पास या डॉक्टर के पास जाइए, क्योंकि प्रिस्क्रिप्शन ऑनली मेडिकेशन है। डॉक्टर असेस करेंगे कि आपको इससे कितना फायदा होने की संभावना है, क्या आप उसके लिए एलिजिबल है। जैसे कि मेडिसिन बहुत अच्छी है, इनसे 10 से 20% वेट रिड्यूस हो सकता है, और वो भी 3 से 6 महीने में, जो एक मैजिक की तरह काम करेगा। लेकिन इनके साइड इफेक्ट्स भी होते हैं।
जैसे
इसके साइड इफेक्ट्स होते हैं, जैसे किसी को नोजिया या वॉमिटिंग हो सकता है, फुलनेस हो सकता है, साथ ही कुछ लोगों को इसमें कॉन्स्टिपेशन हो सकता है, लेकिन कुछ लोगों को डायरिया हो सकता है। फिर जो कुछ सिवियर साइड इफेक्ट होते हैं, जैसे थायराइड डिसऑर्डर होने की संभावना रहती है। कुछ एंटी ओबेसिटी मेडिकेशन पैंक्रियाज पर को भी असर कर सकते हैं। तो ये सारे कंडीशंस हैं। अगर आपको कोई,
तो आप कह रहे हैं शॉर्ट टर्म इम्पैक्ट के लिए लॉन्ग टर्म साइड इफेक्ट्स आ सकते हैं, तो आप केयरफुल रहें ये मेडिकेशन लेने से पहले। लेकिन जो लोग सुन रहे हैं वो कह रहे हैं कि भाई मैंने बहुत ट्राई करा वेट लूज करने का, पर हो नहीं पा रहा है। और अगर आप हिस्ट्री पर जाएं तो अल्टीमेटली ये ड्रग्स तो आई थी डायबिटीज ट्रीट करने के लिए। तो ये शिफ्ट कहाँ आया है, और क्यों लोगों को ये समझना इम्पोर्टेंट है कि ये सिर्फ जब आप इंजेक्शन लेना बंद करेंगे तो वेट लॉस भी खत्म हो जाएगा?
राइट।
सो वो दे कैन फॉल बैक ऑन दोज पैटर्न्स, इज दैट करेक्ट?
आई थिंक दैट्स वेरी करेक्ट अंडरस्टैंडिंग। लेकिन एक चीज आती है कि अगर कोई व्यक्ति मान लीजिए 110 किलो का है, तो उसके लिए काफी डिफिकल्ट है कि वो इमीडिएटली वेट रिड्यूस कर पाए या फिजिकल एक्टिविटी इंक्रीज कर पाए। तो ऐसे लोगों को खासतौर से अगर कोई कॉन्ट्राइंडिकेशन नहीं है, तो वो लोग अगर 110 किलो के व्यक्ति को अगर एंटी ओबेसिटी मेडिकेशन स्टार्ट करते हैं, तो मान लीजिए कि 15 से 20% वेट रिड्यूस होता है, तो उस व्यक्ति का 18 से 20 किलो वेट रिड्यूस हो जाएगा। वो व्यक्ति 90 kg पर आ सकता है। हाँ, ये बात सच है कि वो 90 किलोग्राम पर आने के बाद भी उसको मेडिकेशन जारी रखनी होंगी, नहीं तो वेट बढ़ जाएगा। लेकिन हो सकता है, कई सारे लोग होते हैं वो कहते हैं कि अभी मुझे इमीडिएटली मेरा वेट रिड्यूस हो जाए, फिर उसके बाद मैं डाइट में भी ढंग से पालन करूंगा और फिजिकल एक्टिविटी भी करूंगा।
पर ये भी तो लोग कह सकते हैं ना डॉक्टर लेरिया कि मैं बीबी की मेडिकेशन भी तो जिंदगी भर खाता हूँ, मैं डायबिटीज की मेडिकेशन भी तो जिंदगी भर खाता हूँ, तो मैं वेट लॉस भी ले लूंगा जिंदगी भर।
बीपी और डायबिटीज की मेडिसिन और एंटी ओबेसिटी मेडिकेशन में की अंतर है, क्योंकि बीपी की जो मेडिसिन है या एंटी डायबिटिक मेडिकेशन वो 50 से 70 सालों से हैं, उनके सेफ्टी इफेक्ट काफी प्रूवन है, और साथ ही वो इतने लो कॉस्ट पर आते हैं कि आप जिंदगी भर खाएंगे और कोई कॉस्ट नहीं है। लेकिन जो एंटी ओबेसिटी मेडिकेशन है उनकी कॉस्ट बहुत ज्यादा है।
डॉक्टर लहरिया, जो यंग लोग इस कॉन्वर्सेशन को सुन रहे हैं, वो तो ये कॉन्वर्सेशन सुन के यही बोलेंगे कि अरे ये सारे सेलिब्रिटीज भी तो लेते हैं, इनको तो कोई नहीं रोक रहा है। कितने सेलिब्रिटीज ओलंपिक के बारे में बात हुई है, बाकी लोगों की बात हुई है, इंटरनेशनली तो सेलेब्स ने आके प्रमोट करा है और कहा है कि उन्होंने वेट लॉस ड्रग्स लिए हैं। तो ये क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पर? क्या एक गलत प्रेसिडेंट सेट हो रहा है? क्योंकि आप कह रहे हैं सबको नहीं लेना चाहिए, कॉशन के साथ लीजिए, रिसर्च नहीं है हमारे पास इसके बारे में कि लॉन्ग टर्म इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा, आपके पैनक्रियास पे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा। तो जब ऐसी कंट्री में जहां सेलिब्रिटीज ही डिफाइन करते हैं कूलनेस कोशेंट एक जनरेशन का, इसके बारे में आपका क्या कहना है?
मैं उसके बारे में कहना चाहूंगा कि कई सारे सेलिब्रिटीज हैं जो अल्ट्रा प्रोसेस फूड या शुगर स्वीटेंड बेवरेज को प्रमोट करते हैं। मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो सारे सेलिब्रिटी उनका इस्तेमाल करते हैं, लेकिन उनको मार्केट
मेरा वोल्टा स्मार्ट।
President Trump has doubled down on his declared intention to impose tariffs now on pharmaceutical imports into the US, and that could affect India heavily. India exported about $12 billion worth of pharma products to the US last year, and that's up from just about a couple of $1 billion a year worth only 10 years earlier. So this is an export that's been rising quite dramatically. About a third of all India's pharma exports now go to the US. So any break in that or any inhibition of that would certainly affect India's pharmaceutical companies, but also they would hit patients here in America.
Pharmaceuticals from India and also from China are particularly important in forming in the generic drug market. That's where you have a lot of market drugs that people use routinely. Antibiotics are the most common one, but there are all sorts of common drugs that are used for cardiovascular diseases, for diabetes, etc., that are generic drugs. Prices for generic drugs will particularly increase, and that'll cause some problems both within the U.S. for people who take those medications, as well as for the countries that are exporting the pharmaceuticals.
Trump wants all these medicines now to be produced in the US and sees tariffs as the way to bring in production.
We don't make our own drugs, our own pharmaceuticals. We don't make our own drugs anymore. The drug companies are in Ireland and they're in lots of other places, China. And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The more, the faster they move in. The higher the tariff, it's very serious. It's inversely proportional. The higher the tariff, the faster they come.
But not so fast. Not so fast, certainly, as Trump seems to expect, and not so easy as Trump seems to think.
It's tough because there are high production standards that we want to have for these drugs. They are, depending on the drug, can be very complicated to manufacture, and then depend on particular supplies of certain sorts of inputs. So for example, insulin products, in many cases, what they really require is that you have the inputs. The inputs tend to come from things like pig's intestines. So if you don't have a ready supply of pig's intestines, it's hard to make enough insulin.
It's not just about production standards and available inputs. It's about the economics of production.
There are reasons why many goods are produced in India or China. The cost of production is inherently lower. Labor costs are lower. In many cases, the supply of ingredients that go into these medications are already there. To bring them into the U.S., you may be able to do it, but inherently will be higher cost.
Given the price to be paid both by patients and producers, neither is likely to agree with the writing up on the wall at this pharmaceutical store. President Trump has doubled down on his declared intention to impose tariffs now on pharmaceutical imports into the US, and that could affect India heavily. India exported about $12 billion worth of pharma products to the US last year, and that's up from just about a couple of $1 billion a year worth only 10 years earlier. So this is an export that's been rising quite dramatically. About a third of all India's pharma exports now go to the US. So any break in that or any inhibition.
This morning on The Breakfast Club, we're joined by a man who's made waves, quite literally, with sand. Sudarsan Pattnaik joins us today. He's the Padma Shri winning sand artist from Odisha, and he's just become the first Indian to receive the prestigious Fred Darrington Sand Master Award at Sand World 2025 in England. What does any of that mean? Why is this award so prestigious? We'll be talking to him in just a second about it, but he's known for sculpting powerful messages out of grains of sand, and today he's going to be bringing that very magic to our studio. Let's just go over to him to understand a little bit more. Sudarshan ji, हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए धन्यवाद. Thank you for joining us. Sir, हमें बताइए पहले about this award. ये एक बहुत ही prestigious award है. You're the first Indian to win it, but आप थोड़ा समझा सकते हैं about the importance of this award?
Actually, 100 years back, वेब माउथ में सैंड स्कल्पचर इंग्लैंड में शुरू हुआ था, और जिनने शुरू किए थे वो लीजेंड्स सैंड स्कल्पटर हैं. तो 1925 में उन्हें शुरू किया था फ्रेड डैरिंगटन. तो उनका 100 इयर्स हो रहा था. तो सैंड वर्ल्ड जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है इंग्लैंड का, तो उन लोगों ने डिसाइड किया कि हम लोग इसके ऊपर वर्ल्ड के एक टॉप क्लास आर्टिस्ट को हम ये अवार्ड देंगे उनके नाम पे. तो वर्ल्ड में बहुत सारे आर्टिस्ट हैं, बट फ्रेड डैरिंगटन जो हैं उनका जो लाइफस्टाइल है, जिस तरीके से उन्होंने सैंड स्कल्पचर शुरू किया था वो बीच से ही किया था. तो मेरा जो लाइफस्टाइल है वो बीच के ऊपर है, और स्पेशली मैं जो सैंड स्कल्पचर बनाता हूँ वो करंट टॉपिक इशूज़ पे सोसाइटी को अवेयर करने के लिए करता हूँ। तो उसी को लेकर उनका जो सिलेक्शन कमेटी था, उन लोगों ने डिसाइड किया कि ये अवार्ड्स इंडिया को दिया जाएगा और मुझे दिया जाएगा।
सर थोड़ा हमें बताएंगे सैंड आर्टिस्ट्री में आप आए कैसे, आपकी क्या कहानी थी?
मैं एक्चुअली बचपन से मैं एक चाइल्ड लेबर था, मेरे पड़ोसी के घर में काम कर रहा था।
उड़ीसा में?
उड़ीसा में, पुरी में। बेसिकली मैं पूरी जगन्नाथ धाम से हूँ, महाप्रभु जगन्नाथ जी की वजह से आज मैं जहाँ तक भी हूँ। और समंदर किनारे हमारा घर से बहुत नज़दीक है, तो मैं समंदर किनारे जाके फ्री कैनवस पे ड्रॉ किया, जो सैंड का कैनवस था। तो उसमें काफ़ी सारे लोगों ने मुझे अप्रिशिएट किया जो टूरिस्ट आ रहे थे।
आप कितने साल के थे
तब? मुझे 10-11 साल हुआ था।
ओके, बच्चे थे।
बहुत कम एज था। तो फिर मैंने सोचा कि दिन भर इतना काम करता हूँ, उनके घर में कोई अप्रिशिएट तो नहीं करता है, बट यहाँ पर मैंने कुछ रेत में बनाया तो इतने सारे लोग मुझे अप्रिशिएट करते हैं। तो वो मेरे लिए एक बहुत बड़ा ब्लेसिंग्स हो गया। और फिर मैं रात दिन वही सोचने लगा कि कब टाइम होगा समंदर किनारे दौड़ के चले जाऊं, कुछ बना दूं। तो वो मेरा शुरुआत हो गया सैंड स्कल्पचर। और मैं पहले से एक्चुअली बचपन से मेरा काफ़ी इंटरेस्ट था पेंटिंग बनाना। तो मैं काफ़ी पेंटिंग्स बनाता था। तो बट मेरे पास कलर और ब्रश खरीदने के लिए पैसा नहीं था। तो ये मुझे एक फ्री कैनवस मिल गया जिसमें कि मैंने शुरू किया मेरा लाइफ।
सर कैन वी आस्क यू, टेल अस द फर्स्ट फ्यू इयर्स ऑफ योर करियर, जब आप शुरू कर रहे थे आर्टिस्ट्री में, जब आप आर्टिस्ट बनने की कोशिश में लगे हुए थे, इन द सेंस दैट कि लोग आपको सीरियसली लें कि सैंड स्कल्पचर जैसी चीज़ होती क्या है, हाउ डिड यू डू दैट सर? बिकॉज इंडिया को ये समझाना कि ये एक बहुत ही खूबसूरत एक आर्ट है, वो आपने कैसे किया?
एक्चुअली हमने काफ़ी दिन तक स्कल्पचर करने के बाद, क्योंकि मेरा जो बचपन का लाइफ बहुत स्ट्रगल हुआ लंबा समय तक, तो उसी के अंदर मुझे पता नहीं था कि सैंड स्कल्पचर इंटरनेशनली एक इतना नोन आर्ट फॉर्म है। अभी जैसे बाय रिकॉर्ड अभी 100 इयर्स पहले इंग्लैंड ने किया था सैंड स्कल्पचर। तो वहाँ पर कुछ टूरिस्ट आए थे, 2 फॉरेन टूरिस्ट आए थे, तो उनने मेरा फोटोग्राफ्स खींच के वहाँ पर WSS करके वर्ल्ड सैंड स्कल्पचर एसोसिएशन को भेजा कि आप क्यों इंडिया को इनवाइट नहीं कर रहे हैं आपका वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप और US ओपन में। तो मुझे पहला इनविटेशन US ओपन के लिए आया।
ये कितने साल पहले की बात है?
ये हो गया होगा 28 इयर्स।
ओह वाओ, ओके, 30 साल मान लो।
30 साल के ऊपर हो गया होगा। तो वो पहला इनविटेशन था। तो जब एक कोई घर में काम करने वाला लड़का को समंदर किनारे धूल में उड़ जाने वाला चीज़ को कुछ बना रहा है, उसको फॉरेन से US ओपन में कंपटीशन में पार्टिसिपेट, बट वो मेरा पहला इनविटेशन था, बट मैं उस टाइम जा नहीं पाया। तो उसके बाद मैं पहले बार वर्ल्ड ट्रैवल मार्केट WTM लंदन में पार्टिसिपेट किया, जो मेरा पहला जर्नी था। तो इसलिए ये अवार्ड उसके साथ इतना लिंक था, मैं बहुत इमोशन हो गया कि जिस कंट्रीज़ में मैं 27 ईयर्स बैक जिस कंट्रीज़ को गया था और जहाँ पर मुझे इतना डर था, इतना ये था, और आज वो कंट्री का सबसे जो हाईएस्ट सैंड स्कल्पचर का हाईएस्ट ऑनर उन लोगों ने कंट्री की तरफ से दिया गया है। ये मेरे लिए एक बहुत बड़ा ब्लेसिंग है, सिर्फ मेरे लिए नहीं, जितनी सारे आर्टिस्ट हैं, यंग आर्टिस्ट हैं, दोज आर वर्किंग इन डे एंड नाइट to do something
to make the dream a reality. हाँ sir, congratulations from the whole Breakfast Club team. सर आपसे ये पूछ सकते हैं, walk us through one piece of art. So for example, ये जो गणेशा आपने बनाया, for this I just want to tell, we'll show it to our audiences on the screen, but walk us through the thought process. So कितने देर पहले से आप सोच के रखते हैं कि ये हमें बनाना है? That's question 1. Question 2, what do you need? कोई भी रेत चलता है, एक particular kind of रेत अच्छा है ज़्यादा आपके लिए? Your tools, walk us through the whole process, sir.
एक्चुअली सैंड इज बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट होता है। वेव माउथ का जो सैंड है वर्ल्ड का वन ऑफ द टॉप सैंड है।
व्हाट मेक्स टॉप सैंड?
बेसिकली बहुत फाइन होता है, बहुत स्ट्रांग होता है। यूजुअली बीच का सैंड इतना स्ट्रांग नहीं होता है, तो कुछ बीच का सैंड बहुत स्ट्रांग होता है। उसके ऊपर रिसर्च हुआ है इंग्लैंड में, तो उनका जो वेव माउथ का सैंड है वो वन ऑफ द बेस्ट सैंड है। तो इसलिए सैंड इज मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट होता है हमारा स्कल्पचर का। उसको देखना पड़ता है कि कितना स्ट्रांग है, उसी हिसाब से हम लोग स्कल्पचर को।
एंड वाटर में कितना नमक है उससे भी फर्क पड़ता है, बिकॉज सी वाटर हैज
वाटर का इतना ये नहीं है, बट वाटर तो बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि जब तक सैंड के अंदर वाटर है तब तक वो स्कल्पचर रुकता है। तो इसीलिए हम लोग उसी हिसाब से सैंड स्कल्पचर को कार्विंग करते हैं। और बहुत चैलेंज होता है कि जब सैंड स्कल्पचर में कुछ पॉइंट्स ऐसा होता है जूरी के लिए, जो कितना होल्स बनाना है, वो कितना टाइम तक रुकेगा, उसका ऐसे नहीं कि पूरा माउंटेन जैसे रख दिया उसका, तो उसी को सोच के उसके हिसाब से बनाना पड़ता है। उसका स्पेसिफिकल कुछ टूल्स होता है। पहले तो मैंने जब शुरुआत किया था सिर्फ नाखून में शुरुआत किया था।
हाँ, दिखाइए प्लीज कैमरा को एक बार। हाँ। जैसे सितार बजाने वाले जो इंस्ट्रूमेंटलिस्ट होते हैं उनका भी एक
उसी टाइप का मैं नाखून से ही शुरू किया था। उस समय तो मुझे पता नहीं था कि टूल्स कुछ यूज होता है। जब मैं फॉरेन कंट्रीज में पार्टिसिपेट किया तब मुझे पता चला, बट शुरुआत इसमें हुआ था। तो इस टाइप का
अभी भी ये आपका फेवरेट टूल है क्या?
ऑब्वियसली जब डिटेल्स बनाता हूँ तो मैं नाखून यूज करता हूँ। और कुछ टूल्स हम लोग यूज करते हैं जिसमें कार्विंग करने के लिए, और सैंड को एक तरह से पिरामिड जैसा गैदरिंग करते हैं, फिर टॉप से बॉटम तक कार्विंग होता है। तो ये एक चैलेंजिंग आर्ट होता है, कभी भी गिर सकता है, कभी भी टूट सकता है। तो इसीलिए इसका कंपटीशन चैंपियनशिप इस अराउंड द वर्ल्ड होता है, क्योंकि बहुत चैलेंजिंग होता है। जब 10-15 कंट्रीज या 20 कंट्रीज पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं, एक पर्टिकुलर टाइमिंग से सायरन लगता है, सब लोग शुरू करते हैं, तो एक बहुत ये होता है। तो उसमें देश को रिप्रेजेंट करना और वो चैंपियनशिप में पार्टिसिपेट करना, ये एक बहुत ये होता है। तो जैसे भगवान गणेश जी का जो स्कल्पचर बना है, मुझे 20 इयर्स बैक मैं ग्लासगो में भगवान गणेश जी का स्कल्पचर बनाया था। वहाँ के एक फेमस टीवी चैनल्स आके मुझे पूछे कि आप गणेश जी का स्कल्पचर बनाए हैं, तो ये क्या है? तो मैंने उनको बताया गणेश जी के बारे में। और उसके बाद वो बोले कि यहाँ का वेदर आपको पता है, ग्लासगो में हर टाइम बारिश होता रहता है, तो आप क्या करेंगे अगर बारिश होगा? तो मैं बोला कि हमारा भगवान जो गणेश जी है वो खुद का केयर वो खुद करते हैं, तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा, कुछ बारिश नहीं होगा। सचमुच नेक्स्ट डे मॉर्निंग में हम लोग ब्रेकफास्ट कर रहे थे सब इंटरनेशनल आर्टिस्ट, तो उस समय टेलीविज़न में दिखाया कि द इंडियन गाइज मेक द गणेश एंड लास्ट 7 days देयर इज नो रेन। तो उन्होंने बोला कि गणेश टेक केयर हिमसेल्फ बोल के। और सचमुच भी 7 दिन तक बारिश नहीं हुआ था उधर। तो मैंने देखा कि भगवान गणेश जी का स्कल्पचर में अराउंड द वर्ल्ड जहाँ जहाँ पर बनाया हूँ, एक तो 100% में प्राइज विन किया हूँ, और लोगों का इतना इमोशन जुड़ा होता है, भले ही वो कोई कंट्री का हो, कोई रिलीजन का हो, बट गणेश जी के ऊपर लोगों का अटेंशन बहुत अलग है।
इट्स लाइक सर गणेश जी आपकी लकी चार्म बन चुके हैं।
गणेश जी का ब्लेसिंग्स बहुत, जैसे हम लोग कुछ भी करते हैं गणेश जी को प्रे करते हैं, तो अभी तो गणेश जी का हमने जितना स्कल्पचर बनाया है वो उनका ब्लेसिंग से ही सब में विन किया है।
सर एक मैं आपसे आखिरी सवाल ये पूछना चाहती हूँ, यू यूज़ योर आर्ट फॉर सोशल मैसेजेस ऑल्सो, उसके बारे में आप हमें बता सकते हैं? बिकॉज यू यूज़ योर आर्ट, गणेश जी के बारे में हमने वी जस्ट टॉक्ड अबाउट, बट अदर पीसेज ऑफ आर्ट you've made, you know, that represent different groups across the country. Just tell us, walk us through that, how you see your art.
बेसिकली हमने सैंड स्कल्पचर बनाने के बाद हमने सोचा कि जो सैंड स्कल्पचर है वो पब्लिक आर्ट फॉर्म है, व्हाई नॉट वी कैन डू समथिंग which will give the message to the society, because वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट मायना रखता है। तो करंट टॉपिक इशूज़ के ऊपर स्कल्पचर्स किया, और जिसमें कि सोसाइटी को एक पॉजिटिव मैसेज है, जैसे क्लाइमेट चेंज है, हेल्थ की इशूज़ है, और बहुत सारी इशूज़ को हमने ये किया जो पॉजिटिव इशूज़ है उसको हमने क्रिएट किया सैंड पे। जो पब्लिक प्लेस पे हम बनाते हैं वहाँ पर काफ़ी लोग शाम को आते हैं बीच पे, तो वहाँ खड़े होते हैं, वो भी उनका व्यूज़ भी देते हैं, और वो मैसेज गया। जैसे मैं यूएस में 3 मेडल मैंने जीता था यूएस ओपन में, तो वहाँ पर मैंने बनाया था, ऑयल स्प्लिट हो रहा था तब समंदर के अंदर, तो मैंने दिखाया कि जो
ऑयल स्पिल हुआ था बहुत मशहूर,
तो उसी को मैंने दिखाया कि जो सी किंग है वो कैसे रो रहे हैं, और किस तरीके से बाहर सब ये पड़ा हुआ है, डेथ फीस, ये सब सी एनिमल्स पड़ा हुआ है। तो उसमें मैंने जूरी चॉइस विन किया, पीपल चॉइस विन किया, स्कल्पचर चॉइस विन किया। तो ये पब्लिक के साथ जुड़ा हुआ होता है। जैसे एलियन कुर्दी जो बच्चा आपको पता होगा, जो मिडल ईस्ट कंट्री में जो ये हो गया था, पानी जो रिफ्यूजी का ये हुआ था, एक छोटा सा बच्चा वो आके, तो उसी को हमने सैंड में क्रिएट करके सेम टू ह्यूमैनिटी करके लिखा। तो वो पिक्चर इतना वर्ल्ड वाइड लोगों के पास ये हुआ, इमोशन क्रिएट किया।
गणेशा का भी तो वर्ल्ड पीस पे था।
हाँ, गणेश जी का भी मैंने इसलिए बनाया कि अभी जो वर्ल्ड का सिचुएशन है, जिस तरीके से वॉर को लेकर।
सर आपका, अगर मैं एक बार बोल सकती हूँ, यू हैव अ वेरी यूनिक आर्ट फॉर्म, बिकॉज आपका ये आर्ट फॉर्म है, ग्रोन अप्स के लिए भी है, बच्चों के लिए भी है. It's very rare in that sense. कौन सा और आर्ट फॉर्म ऐसा है जो इतना एक्सेसिबल है, कोई भी उसे देख के समझ सकता है कि आपका जो मैसेज है वो क्या है. बच्चों को भी कभी-कभी आई वंडर दे मस्ट बी कमिंग अप टू यू एंड सेइंग दिस इज सो कूल. उनके लिए तो जादू होता होगा ये जो आप करते हैं, राइट?
नहीं, सैंड आर्ट जो है आपको पता होगा कि यूरोप में मैक्सिमम कंट्रीज में सैंड आर्ट के ऊपर क्लासेस होता है स्कूल में, क्योंकि बच्चों का बहुत आर्किटेक्ट माइंड डेवलप होता है उसमें. क्योंकि जब वो सैंड में कुछ बनाते हैं तो उनका, आप देखे होंगे कुछ बच्चे जब बीच में चले जाते हैं तो वो दौड़ के एक रास्ता बनाते हैं, घर बनाते हैं, इधर से जाना है, वो करना है. उनका जो आर्किटेक्ट माइंड बहुत अच्छा डेवलप होता है. तो इसलिए हमने देखा कि बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स, यंग स्टूडेंट्स, उनका काफ़ी, इवन हमारा कंट्रीज में अभी बहुत सारा सैंड आर्टिस्ट है. एवरी कॉर्नर जहाँ पर समंदर किनारे, वो उनका ये है. तो अभी मैं बताना चाहूँगा, एक सबसे यूनिक होने जा रहा है कि सैंड आर्ट का एक कोर्स निकलने जा रहा है. और इंडिया का वन ऑफ द सबसे जो बड़ा यूनिवर्सिटी है, इग्नो यूनिवर्सिटी की तरफ से सैंड आर्ट के ऊपर एक बड़ा कोर्स होने जा रहा है, जो सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स जैसा होगा. तो उसमें अराउंड द वर्ल्ड कहाँ पर भी आप सैंड कासल सीख सकते हैं, कैसे ये करते हैं. तो उसमें काफ़ी स्टूडेंट्स का जो ये यूनिकनेस, क्रिएटिविटी है, वो डेवलप हो सकता है.
बिकॉज आपका पॉइंट है उसमें आर्किटेक्चर भी है थोड़ा सा, उसमें फिजिक्स भी है थोड़ा सा, राइट? मैथमेटिक्स ऑब्वियसली तो मतलब इट्स वेरी मच देयर. सो थैंक, एंड आर्टिस्ट्री भी तो है, उसके बारे में तो हमने बात ही नहीं किया. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टेकिंग आउट द टाइम हमारे स्टूडियो में आने के लिए, बताने के लिए कि जादू क्या है आपके हाथों में. एंड ऑब्वियसली हमने अपने, we've just shown our audiences all the visuals of your art too, just to be famous, but to understand process क्या है आपका. We've loved doing this with you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay.
Lovely chat.
Okay, let's move on now. Let's take our audiences to something very, very cool that took place. And yesterday we first brought it to you on April 14th, 2025. Blue Origin's new Shepard rocket launched 6 women into space, and it's the first all-female civilian crew to complete a suborbital mission.
Now, this 11-minute, which felt like a lifetime to, I'm sure, all of these women, flight reached the altitude of over 100 kilometers, crossing the Kármán line. That's internationally recognized as the boundary for and of space there. Now, take a look at what exactly happened in those 11 minutes when they were up there.
Bezos there have gone into the safety shelter, and here they come. Here we go. Loading into the capsule.
And the significance here of the
6 women just made interstellar history in the United States. In a landmark moment for spaceflight and gender representation, Blue Origin launched 6 women into space today aboard its new Shepard rocket.
2, 1, release.
The flight lifted off from West Texas just after 9 a.m., marking a milestone as the first all-female civilian crew to complete a suborbital mission. The capsule reached more than 100 kilometers above Earth, crossing the Kármán line, which is the internationally recognized boundary of space. The diverse crew included engineer and entrepreneur Aisha Bao, journalist Gail King, civil rights activist Amanda Nguyen, singer Katy Perry, filmmaker Kerry-Ann Flynn, and Lauren Sanchez, aviation pilot, philanthropist and Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos' fiancée. Each woman brought her own story, mission and voice to the journey, turning a short trip into a giant leap for visibility and inspiration. The flight lasted about 11 minutes, with a few magical minutes of weightlessness. Supporters reached from far and wide, including Kris Jenner, Khloe Kardashian, and veteran female astronauts cheered from the Texas launch site.
There's only one time that all the women are going up for the first time. Right. There will be other trips, but there's only one first time. Incredible. So to be a pioneer is great.
While suborbital flights have become more common, this mission carried unique symbolic weight. Historically, women have been underrepresented in space exploration. Blue Origin's flight not only showcased Blue Origin's growing role in commercial space travel, but also sent a powerful message: space is for everyone. While criticism on the thought remains, it cannot be denied that this is a vision of inclusion and a space future where diverse voices are not just passengers, but pioneers. Inside the capsule, crew members were seen floating, laughing, and even wiping away tears as they looked down at Earth. As the capsule crossed the Kármán line, Perry serenaded the crew with a version of "What a Wonderful World." Inside the weightless cabin, the 6 women shared tears, laughter, and awe. Kerry Ann Flynn, a film producer, said she was almost without words, while civil rights activist Amanda Nguyen called the journey a gift. Bo called the journey absolutely breathtaking post-landing. The descent of the crew was smooth, with parachutes deploying perfectly before a soft desert landing. Jeff Bezos himself opened Blue Origin's capsule latch to welcome bride-to-be Lauren Sanchez and the other crew members back on Earth. The entire crew emerged safe, smiling, and visibly moved by the 11-minute surreal experience.
Joy. Complete and utter joy and gratefulness. Like, it makes me want to come back and just hug everyone and be like, oh my God, we're in this together.
I brought a promise that I wrote to myself. I've talked about that. I ended up bringing it and floating it, and it's the hospital band. I got to honor her today.
It was the most incredible experience of my life.
And I mean, if everybody could experience that peace that we had up there, all the people that it took to get us up there and get us back safely, I'll never, ever, ever forget.
I think this experience has shown me you never know how much love is inside of you.
I just feel a renewed connection to everything in life and where we are, and I can't wait to go back out there and pour what I've learned into the world.
But what is the bigger takeaway of Blue Origin's historic spaceflight? This wasn't just a flight, but a phenomenon way beyond. It was a reset. The company hasn't disclosed what, if anything, the crew paid. But previous tickets have gone for millions, and a $150,000 deposit is now required to even be considered. Blue Origin aims to normalize suborbital space travel. This latest mission is both a milestone for representation and a reminder of space's growing commercial frontier. But Blue Origin's historic all-female flight has not only expanded our horizons, but has also ignited a spark of inspiration that will burn brightly for generations to come. While this exploration has made it clear that space too is a tourist spot, it is just the beginning of humans reaching way beyond the stars.
Mahi sir.
President Trump has doubled down on his declared intention to impose tariffs now on pharmaceutical imports into the US, and that could affect India heavily. India exported about $12 billion worth of pharma products to the US last year, and that's up from just about a couple of $1 billion a year worth only 10 years earlier. So this is an export that's been rising quite dramatically. About a third of all India's pharma exports now go to the US. So any break in that or any inhibition of that would certainly affect India's pharmaceutical companies, but also they would hit patients here in America.
Pharmaceuticals from India and also from China are particularly important in forming in the generic drug market. You know, that's where you have a lot of market drugs that people use routinely. Antibiotics are the most common one, but there are all sorts of common drugs that are used for cardiovascular diseases, for diabetes, etc., that are generic drugs. Prices for generic drugs will particularly increase, and that'll cause some problems both within the U.S. for people who take those medications, as well as for the countries that are exporting the pharmaceuticals.
Trump wants all these medicines now to be produced in the US and sees tariffs as the way to bring in production.
Welcome back. Let's take you now to the videos that we hope stay with you through the day. First, we're taking you to last night's IPL match. Everyone has already seen that nail-biting thriller. Could Punjab Kings defeat their number 111? Well, yes, they could, as surprising as it was. And they were fourth in the table with 4 wins in 6 games. That's the owner, Preeti Zinta, hugging Yuzi Chahal.
But the man of the moment really was Chahal. He picked up 4 wickets in 1 over, helping Punjab defeat the lowest score in the history of IPL, of which is just 111. That is, the wrist spinner registered actually 4 wickets for just 28 and 4 overs to sort of trigger a collapse in the KKR batting lineup, who eventually got bundled out for 95. Still getting goosebumps there. You see Preeti Zinta saying, "Touch me, tell me it's actually real, it's actually happened."
Even on the elevator up today, people were just discussing this match.
The match?
People can't get over what it was like. But let's go from this now to something very different. A video coming in from the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. And what you're looking at right now is elephants that are instinctively circling their young as soon as they felt the 5.2 earthquake which hit San Diego County on Monday.
Now, according to the zoo, this behavior is known as alert circle and is intended to protect the young and the entire herd from threats. You will know that a lot of animals, when they have babies, they come in several numbers, but elephant has a very long gestation period, not delivers a lot of young. So they're very, very protective of the one calf actually that comes out. Young female there, 7-year-old, is in the middle, and you see Zuli there, 7-year-old in the middle, male as well. And this reaction sort of stayed closer to the outer part of the circle versus inside as well. So they all huddled up just to sort of protect their future generation. How beautiful. And on that lovely note, you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
President Trump has doubled down on his declared intention to impose tariffs now on pharmaceutical imports into the US, and that could affect India heavily. India exported about $12 billion worth of pharma products to the US last year, and that's up from just about a couple of $1 billion a year worth only 10 years earlier. So this is an export that's been rising quite dramatically. About a third of all India's pharma exports now go to the US. So any break in that or any inhibition of that would certainly affect India's pharmaceutical companies, but also they would hit patients here in America.
Pharmaceuticals from India and also from China are particularly important in forming in the generic drug market. You know, that's where you have a lot of market drugs that people use routinely. Antibiotics are the most common one, but there are all sorts of common drugs that are used for cardiovascular diseases, for diabetes, etc., that are generic drugs. Prices for generic drugs will particularly increase, and that'll cause some problems both within the U.S. for people who take those medications, as well as for the countries that are exporting the pharmaceuticals.
Trump wants all these medicines now to be produced in the US and sees tariffs as the way to bring in production.
We don't make our own drugs, our own pharmaceuticals. We don't make our own drugs anymore. The drug companies are in Ireland and they're in lots of other places, China. And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The more, the faster they move in. The higher the tariff, it's very simple. It's inversely proportional. The higher the tariff, the faster they come.
But not so fast. Not so fast, certainly, as Trump seems to expect, and not so easy as Trump seems to think.